We're here, folks. We're here. It is time. It's time for some NFL picks. Time for some NFL Week 2. I'm wearing a brand new shirt for this. Wanted to look nice and snazzy for y'all. We run a classy ship around these parts. I got 4 people waiting for me already. I love it. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I see we've already got people in the chat too. My God, we got Gorian, we've got Chad, we've got Gorian again. Everybody's ready. Everybody's ready for Week 2 picks. I love that. Love that energy. Gorian says Dolphins, Jayhawks, Arizona State, Steelers, Jaguars, Eagles, Texans, UCLA, -2.5 on the Lions and -4.5 on the Ravens. Holy cow. Gorian is just all over the map. Hello from Chad from Regina, Saskatchewan. Don't forget the weather, eh? You know what, Chad? Honestly, I didn't really look at the weather reports this week. It's so early in the season. I failed you. I feel like I failed you. Gorian, Alabama, Washington, Ottawa also added. Broken ankle. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We're ready to roll here. Martin, did you get a haircut, Justin? I did. I noticed last week I was looking a little scraggly. I was like, you know what? It's time. It's time to chop some of this hair off. All right. So we're going to start our recording. Why does this always do this? Let's put you back up there. And we'll start our recording. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm sure that will crawl right back down to the spot that it likes to be at. All right. Now, I do hope very shortly that Kat shows up, because Kat is really going to enjoy one of the things that I put right at the beginning of this episode. And I have to, because I have to be real. I have to be honest. So it's going to be something that Kat's very much going to enjoy. All right. Let's see. Everything good. Everything good. Everything good. I think we're ready to roll. Let's do this. In 5, 4, 3. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to Week 2 of my weekly NFL football pick show for the 2024 NFL season. Didn't say CFL this time. I worked it out. So we are here off of a fairly successful Week 1. I'm not going to turn my nose up at the way the picks were, the way they fell out at the end of Week 1. So in terms of my Week 1 results, I was only 8-8 straight up, which is usually nothing to kind of write home about. Like only going even money, picking the game straight up. It's not double digits. That's sort of where I like to aim for every single week. But the betting picks, we found quite a bit of success last week. 9, 6, and 1, both against the spread and on the totals. So I pushed on a spread, I pushed on a total, but 9, 6, and 1 for both of those. I'm certainly willing to take that. And actually, based off that 9, 6, and 1 and the way my confidence points laid out, I'm actually currently leading Half Moon's ATS pool after 1 week. So 2 thumbs up on that. It was a fairly strong week there for those 2 betting picks. So obviously 8-8 straight up, 9, 6, and 1 against the spread, 9, 6, and 1 on the totals for the season, because we've only had 1 week. I'm putting off saying the thing that I need to say to Kat, because I don't think Kat's here yet. We'll take a peek at the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em after 1 week. And unfortunately, because I was only 8-8, I'm pretty low in that pick'em right now. I'm only 27th out of 34 currently in the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em for season 13 of this show. I did bring in 87 of 136 possible confidence points. It's 64%. It's fine, but a lot of people found a lot of success making the picks in Week 1. So I'm only in 27th place in that pool, which is obviously not ideal. Shout out to our week one winner, as well as obviously our overall leader, Crazythings. Crazythings had a hell of a week one, 125 of 136 possible confidence points, a clip of just under 92%, which is a massive, massive opening week for them. So Crazythings sets the pace coming out of week one. And very early in the show here, we're going to take a peek into Fantasy Corner, which is, of course, brought to you by my great friends at the Dynasty Trade Calculator. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have taken the step this year into Dynasty, Keeper, or long-term fantasy football, which I did many years ago, you're going to find the Dynasty Trade Calculator one of the absolute best resources that's available to you online for, again, Dynasty, Keeper, long-term fantasy football. You're talking about player evaluations, trade evaluations, podcasts, a lot of great experts available to you on the Dynasty Trade Calculator. And if you go down in the description of this video, you're going to find my affiliate link to the DTC. So go on that link, and for as little as a cup of coffee, you can get access to one of the absolute best tools available to you online. It doesn't matter how your league is configured, how it's laid out. You got a tight end premium, you play super flex, you play two quarterback but not super flex, PPR, running back points per carry. It doesn't matter how your league goes. The Dynasty Trade Calculator has got you covered with some of the absolute best evaluations that you are going to find anywhere online. So grab my link down in the description below and get yourself access to the DTC. Now, I'm slow out of the gate in fantasy in after week one of this season. Only 2-6 across my 8 fantasy football teams, including going 0-2 in my 2 dynasty leagues, which we'll talk about a little more here in a second. Now, my best ball teams, I do have 3 best ball teams this year as well. They're, only kind of middle of the pack. I'm in 4th place in one. I'm in 6th place in a paid league, and I'm in 9th place out of 10 in the other one. So a slow start across the board in fantasy football this season. In the Professionals Dynasty Fantasy Football League, I did lose to Tim in week one. Tim's team wildly overperforming, getting well up over 200 points, which is a measurable thing in this particular league. He was only projected for like 140 something, or maybe even 130 something, and got up into the 200s. So he absolutely dominated. In the Ante & Co. Dynasty Fantasy Football League, I also lost. This one was to Bill. And you know what? Bill is he's the defending champ in the Professionals, but struggled in Ante & Co. But had a pretty good week one. So again, it was a situation where in both of those leagues in particular, I would have beaten probably half a dozen other managers in the league. I just wasn't matched up with any of them. So I still feel okay, despite the fact that, the record is what it is, and it's 0-1 in both of those leagues, and only 2-6 across all my teams. Okay, Cat is here. Cat is officially here. And I saved this for you because you are just going to eat this up. You're going to love it. In week one, the rule of 4 missed. Only 3 betting underdogs won their games straight up in week one. 13 betting favorites won their games. They didn't all necessarily cover, but they won their games straight up. So for as much as I have been crowing about the rule of 4, in the very first week of the 2024 season, the rule of 4 misses. And I'll have to go back, but I don't remember a year since I've been tracking it. Boy, maybe like 2017 or something like that, when it was only like 10-7, the rule that is. I can't remember the last time it missed in week one. Crazy. Unreal that it missed in week one. Because usually week one, there's way more upsets. There's like 5, 6, 7. Like if you're looking for the week that has like the most betting ups, as I talked about it last week, it's usually week one. Only 3 of them this time around. Yeah, for real. Like it's again, I don't remember the last time it happened. But yeah, I went back and I looked, and it was only 3 underdogs that actually won their game straight out. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. It would have been the Patriots. Oh boy. Technically Dallas, because Dallas was like a 2-point dog in that game at close. I can't remember the third one. But yeah, it was only 3. So the rule misses in week 1. What are you going to do? So this is the point in the show where I always like to remind you that if you go down to the description of the live stream, the VOD, the podcast episode, however you get this show, you are going to find all of my results from last week, all my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 2 in the NFL. You're going to find information on joining the Bridgewater's Finest Pick 'em Pool for season 13 of this show. And you're going to find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, where we talk football all week long. A lot of great people doing exactly what I'm doing, video form, live streams, what have you. There's a lot of great resources there. You'll find that information down below as well. Now, before we get into the picks for week 2, let's just quickly go through the chat here. Kat says, this is not 7:30. This shit is rigged. I've been lied to. Now, I did say in the tweet, I did say I might start early. So technically I did start like 7-8 minutes early, but you go check my Twitter. I am completely cleared of all wrongdoing. I've been waiting for an hour, forgot about the different time zones. Yeah, broken ankle. That's why I always try to put the tweets in Eastern time, because only degenerates like us work on Atlantic time. So I always try to put the tweet in Eastern Standard to try to make it easier for people. Kat says it was me. I made it happen. I didn't see the tweet. I saw the timestamp on YouTube. Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Without further ado, ladies and gents, let's get into our picks here for week 2. And in doing so, I would like to point out a number that I would like you to keep in mind. The number I'd like you to keep in mind is the number 11. Might anyone know why I might want you to keep the number 11 in mind? This would be a tough one. If you can pull this, it would be tremendous. Any guesses? How filled out is that notebook? Not bad. I tore out last season, right? So it's only a couple pages in the front. How many you got correct? No. Unfortunately, I was only 8-8 last week. There's an 11 thing going on in the WNBA, but I doubt that's what you're referring to. No, definitely not. Although, man, look, Caitlin Clark is killing it. No. 11 is the percentile chance of a team in the NFL making the playoffs after starting 0-2. If you start 0-2, your chances of making the playoffs historically, since I think the middles of the 60s when they started tracking this, historically, it's 11%. So you got about a 1 in 10 shot if you start the season 0-2. The reason I bring that up is obviously we had 16 teams that came out on the unhappy side of par last week. So 11%, it's not a great number. Is that updated considering we have 7 seeds now? I don't think they went back and would have updated that over that length of time. Now, since we do have 7 seeds, we do have an extra playoff team. It would be interesting. It would be interesting. You're going to have more time go by before you accurately look at what the difference is, what the change is, because you need time, right? You need time for that data to accrue. It's interesting though, because I certainly hadn't considered that. But statistically speaking, it's about 11%. So keep that in mind. About a 1 in 10 chance, maybe 1 in 8 if we want to be, if we want to give the benefit of the doubt, if we want to give the friendly bounce. So you got a lot of teams here that lost last week that are really going to be staring down the barrel if they lose again this week. And we'll mention them, especially considering what teams might be shooting for. Like, Carolina doesn't exactly have playoff aspirations, I wouldn't think, this year, whereas Cincinnati very much does. So it's the context of the team is very different as they head into their games here in week 2. So we're going to kick things off with the Thursday nighter. That is the Buffalo Bills in Miami taking on the Dolphins. Both of these teams were winners last week. The Bills with a 6-point win, Miami with a 3-point win against Jacksonville, a game that they trailed for a lot of that game and for quite a while just didn't really look like the team that I think we would expect the Miami Dolphins to look like. Meanwhile, Buffalo was in a shootout with Arizona and ultimately survived, didn't cover against the spread, but did ultimately survive that game. I would say both of these teams, considering who they're playing this week, taking a bit of a step up in competition, which is another thing that I think this early in the season, you can have these wild swings of like look at New Orleans. New Orleans is going from playing Carolina in week 1 to now having to go to Dallas in week 2. That's obviously two very, very different teams and very, very different challenges this early in the season. So both of these teams are looking at a step up in competition from last week. Miami, I think this is Miami's second straight home game because they played in Miami. They played in Miami last week, did they not? Let's quick run back and check. Yes, they did. So second straight home game for Miami, which is nice. They haven't had to hit the road yet this year. No, I wanted to say no significant injuries, but one thing that's really got me leaning in a particular way in this game, and that way is in the Buffalo side, is Miami's run game is going to look real interesting this week. Raheem Mostert has already been ruled out. Devon Achane is looking increasingly unlikely to play, which means the running back duties are now going to fall to Jeff Wilson Jr. And I think the rookie that they just drafted, is it Jalen Wright or Jaden Wright? It's Wright is the last name, is going to be active for this game. So that's obviously a significant downturn, I would say, in the playmaking ability of the Miami Dolphins from the running attack. Now, their biggest playmakers, their most dynamic playmakers, are obviously those two wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddell. So they're not missing their biggest playmakers, but let's not pretend that like a guy like Achane or a guy like Raheem Mostert are not huge, especially like touchdown sponges, especially Mostert. Like, I think it really does limit the upside of this Miami offense. I really like Buffalo in this spot. I think I'm going to be grabbing the Bills here. Cat even kind of saying, like, not that I was high on them, but my faith in Miami is shaken after that week 1 performance. Like, I mean, I took Jacksonville to upset them, but I mean, Miami just didn't look great, I think, for a lot of that game. And look, Buffalo had to fight tooth and nail to beat a team that they're objectively better than. So, I mean, this stuff happens in week 1. But I like the Bills in this spot. Let's go Buffalo on the road in Miami to get an upset win, division matchup over the Miami Dolphins. So on the line, Miami's laying -2.5 here. I think the wrong team technically here is the favorite, even though I get why it's the case. The game's in Miami. It makes sense. But I'm going to take the +2.5 on the Bills because I like them to win this game outright. Total in the game here set at 49. I think that total's a little bit too high, especially again, where Miami, we don't really know what their running attack is going to look like in this game. So give me like a 23-20, something like that. Maybe a walk-off field goal winds up winning this. So 23-20 for the Bills. Bills win. Bills cover. Give me the under on the points. Let's go to that aforementioned New Orleans and Dallas game. Both of these teams coming into this week off of very, very big wins. Obviously, New Orleans blowing out Carolina last week. And Dallas with a 16-point win against Cleveland. And once again, I didn't think Cleveland should have been the favorite in that game. That made no sense to me at all. So, two teams coming in off big wins. Dallas staying at about the same competition level, I would say, because I don't necessarily look at New Orleans as a playoff team. New Orleans taking a massive step up in competition here, going from a division opponent that they know very well in Carolina to having to go to Dallas into Jerry World to play the Cowboys. And I think any concerns about the Cowboys and at least their offensive potency hopefully would have, kind of been assuaged after the showing that they had last week against a very good defense in Cleveland. I did originally kind of look at this as, man, is this an upset spot? Like, can I find the upset here? I think I'm going to lean on Dallas. Like, look, New Orleans had an incredible week one. Very, very good. Carr looked great. Kamara looked great. Their offense looked great. And the defense didn't really have to do too much, on being perfectly honest. Poor Carolina. They are in a spot, man. I don't think I can find the upset in this one. We're going to go ahead and take the Dallas Cowboys here at home to get the win over the New Orleans Saints. However, Dallas is favored by too many. New Orleans is still a quite good football team, especially on the defensive side. I think that defense is a little bit underrated. So I like the Cowboys to win, but I'm actually going to take the +6.5 on New Orleans. I just feel like that's laying too much on the Cowboys. So Dallas to win. Give me the +6.5. Sorry, on New Orleans. Total in the game set at 46. Both of these teams went over last week. Let's go ahead and take the over there as well. We're going to go 28-24. So Cowboys win. Saints cover the +6.5 and give me the over on the 46-point total. Another matchup of two teams that I think should be playoff bound when things are all said and done at the end of the season. The Tampa Bay Bucks traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Detroit got a 6-point win in week one on Sunday Night Football against the Rams. Tampa Bay finding a big win, 17 points. Who'd they beat? Washington, right. They played the Commanders. So step up in competition for Tampa Bay here for sure. In a big bad way. Like, I like Washington, but I mean, Washington and Detroit are obviously not the same. And I really like this Lions team, especially at home. They're a very good team at home. This is one where I think I can find the upset. And the reason I say that is this. I genuinely think there's something special going on there in Tampa Bay. I feel like you watch Baker Mayfield play now versus when Baker Mayfield was playing early in his career. And early in Baker's career, you could tell that he was trying to fake it till you make it kind of thing, right? Like, he's always played like kind of with an edge and what some people would call playing with a swagger or whatever. But when he was in Cleveland, it felt like he was forcing it. It felt very much like an act. Some of the stuff, like the sidelines and mic'd up and stuff that was coming out of week one, he's playing with that confidence for a reason. That's a very good football team in Tampa Bay. That is a team that is going to win playoff games. Like, that's a team that is going to go under people's radars, even though they were a good team last year. They're going to go under people's radars this year. And it's not that I think Detroit's going to be unprepared. I just think Tampa can find the upset here. I don't know. I like it. It feels good. Detroit, I think, kind of struggled with the Rams a little bit, which understandably the Rams are Rams are a team that a lot of people are talking about as a potential, like, playoff team, really high-powered offense. Of course, now they're going to be without one of their stars, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I like the Bucks here. I'm going to take the Bucks on the road to get the win over Detroit. Get the upset win, I should say, over Detroit. So Detroit's laying -7, and that's part of this too. -7, that line is stinky. Like, to lay a full touchdown, and that's why I say this Tampa team is running under the radar. This Tampa team should not be a 7-point dog in this game. That's Vegas slightly overvaluing the Lions and heavily undervaluing the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's what that line is. For that to be full 7 points, it shouldn't be. So the line stinks to me. I'm taking the upset, and obviously give me the +7 points. Feel good about that one. So On the line, or the total, not the line, the total, sorry. The total here is 51.5 points. We'll talk about what's going on in the chat here in a second. Total in this game, 51.5 points. The two teams combined to go over their totals by about 7 points combined last week. I think that was like a heavy over and a kind of a slight under. I'm going to go over on this. I think there's the potential here for quite a bit of fireworks. So we're going to go like a 30-27, something like that. Upset win for Tampa Bay. Bucks win. Bucks cover the +7 and over the 51.5 points. Up next, we got the New York Jets playing their second road game to start the season. So tail end back-to-back roadies, which is a thing in this league. The Jets traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Now, I was on the Titans to win last week. That obviously did not happen. A number of, I'm going to call them unforced errors. They gave up a touchdown on special teams. They gave up a touchdown on a bizarre pick six on a ball that never should have been thrown to begin with. So Will Levis and the team as a whole definitely made some mistakes. So is it a mulligan situation? I'm not sure. The Jets are one of those teams that I think have to be staring down this barrel of, oh my God, what happens if we start 0-2? Because they're a team that there's playoff aspirations there. Hell, with what happened in Buffalo in the offseason, it's not insane with how good that Jets defense is supposed to be that you should be talking about this team. Like, again, people just going off in the chat, that like you should be talking about this team as a potential team to win this division. So for them to start the season 0-2, that's going to be a tough pill for them to swallow. I'm going to put Tennessee in that same basket, not necessarily that I think they have the same upside as the Jets, but I think this is very much like a team that's in play for that 6 or 7 seed in the AFC. The playoffs are something that I think that Titans team, it might be them overachieving a little bit, but I do think it's something that they should still be aspiring towards. So neither one of these teams want to lose this game, obviously. No team ever wants to lose. But the loser of this game is going to be in that 0-2 hole. And we talked about it earlier, 11% chance. All right. If last week was the Titans mulligan, boy, this is another one where like, God, can I find the upset here? I think I can. It's not that I don't think the Jets are a better team than Tennessee, because I definitely do. Like I think the Jets are objectively a better team than Tennessee. And I mean, Aaron Rodgers having to go from playing the Niners to the Titans, that's certainly different. Boy, other than Garrett Wilson, was there much of anything to love about that Jets game last week? Like, look, you could see it on Rodgers' face in that game. He was like, oh, I found my new toy. Like, he can do this in games. Like, I found my new Devontae Adams. It was like Christmas morning. It showed him a couple of times and he was just like, ooh, like, look at this great new toy I found. So I totally get that. And I think Garrett Wilson's going to have a monster season. But other than that, I didn't think the defense played good in spots, but I didn't think the defense played incredibly. And I didn't think the offense really looked overly in sync for a lot of that game either. Now, again, granted, you're up against the 49ers defense. This Titans defense, I think, is a little underrated. I think they are kind of another team that's kind of maybe coming into the season a little bit under the radar. I've talked myself into it. Let's take the Titans. If last week was the Titans mulligan, they got to show it this week. So let's take the Titans. Home dog, 3.5 points, having to buy that extra hook on the Jets on the road off of that performance. Don't love it. So let's take the Titans to win the game outright, because I was pretty much always going to take that +3.5 anyway. So Titans win. Titans cover the +3.5. Total in the game set at 40.5. I think on average, these teams beat their numbers last week. That's a really beatable number as well, 40.5. Let's go over on that. Let's go like a 24-23, something like that. Very, very close, very competitive football game. 24-23, Titans win, Titans cover, over on the points. And the last game we're going to look at before we look at the Packers game is the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Both of these teams on the happy side of things last week. And this is where we kind of start talking about the really significant injuries that we're seeing, how they're going to impact this week, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And each one of these teams has one. Obviously, the very high profile one was Christian McCaffrey getting scratched. What was it, an hour before Monday Night Football? Or an hour and a half or whatever it was. He got scratched. Obviously, people were like, oh no, what is this going to mean? What's this going to mean? But it turned out not that he's replaceable. I'm not saying that. But Mason did a heck of a job running that scheme and that system, that Shanahan offense. He did an awfully good job. So there's a good chance that McCaffrey does not play again this week. He's kind of trending towards doubtful. So it is a downgrade on the offensive side for sure. But I mean, they made it work. They absolutely made it work. And this is a spot where they can have McCaffrey sit out and, worry about worry about getting healthy for week 3. On Minnesota's side, Jordan Addison left that game last week with an ankle injury. He's trending with the questionable tag, not sure whether he's going to play or not. That is certainly a loss for a Vikings offense that, played very well in week 1. But granted, look at the opposition. They were playing the Giants. So now you go to playing, obviously, a much different monster. It's on your home field, which is nice. But this is the Niners game. This is 100%. This is the Niners game. So we're going to be on San Francisco real heavy here on the road in Minnesota to get the win over the Vikings. I like San Francisco to cover the -6. I don't think that should give them a ton of trouble. So let's take Niners -6. We're okay with that. Total in the game set at 45.5. It's a pretty good number. I think that's going to be right around where it is. We're going to take an over on this one, over 45.5. We're going to go like 30-18, something like that. They should comfortably cover that -6. Niners win, Niners cover over the 45.5 point total. Okay, before we talk about any more games, let's come up here. Let's come up here and do a little chatting. So let's see. Just drinking in all that shit talking in the live chat. Buffalo has no wide receivers, but good luck. Appreciate it. We'll take that. Good luck, bad spot. Sure. I'm in the midst of a hurricane right now in Louisiana. Yikes, Matt. Stay safe on that one. Defensive injuries on Tampa. I know. I understand. Doesn't mean they can't win a football game. Like, yes, defensive injuries. Absolutely. Next guy up. Like, it happens. You play very risky. I finally get this. Got to risk it for the biscuit. And then we've got funny guy Ty. And I don't usually like calling people out specifically, but like, okay, yeah, like boo, one pride. Okay, get it. You're a Lions fan. Lions best team in the league, and we ain't even got our chemistry going yet. Keep sleeping on. I'm not sleeping on them. They're an excellent football team. It doesn't mean they can't lose a game. Just pointing that out. Yeah, they're a really good team. Really good teams lose football games. Really good teams lost football games last week and will lose again this week. It happens. Have you seen the injuries on defense? Yes, I have. Ford Field, the hardest stadium in the league to play in. I think Arrowhead might have something to say about that. Bucks going to be down. Tragic. I mean, you could be right. Like, this is what this game is. It's making picks. And sometimes you're going to be right and sometimes you're going to be wrong. I'm okay where I'm at. They should win the East, the Jets. Should is tough. Like, there's 3 pretty good teams in that division. They certainly have a pretty good chance. Are they the betting favorite still to win the division? I'm not sure. He was never going to play. Mason told us all on Friday, told the real truth. Yeah, it's I feel like that whole situation was a little overblown. Um, but at the same time, it's like you don't have to give any more pieces of information than you absolutely positively have to. And I think that the Niners PR people were like, let's have a chat kind of thing. Like, I do feel like it was overblown a little bit. Like, once that kind of came out, everybody was like, oh my God, there's a lot of hand wringing going on. I think it was a little overblown, but at the same time, if you don't have to give that piece of information, why would you? For some reason, that activated my Google. I'm not sure why. All right, moving on. There you go. No one loses zero. Exactly. All right, let's take a look at the Packers game now. Obviously, I'll highlight every Packers game. The Indianapolis Colts traveling to Green Bay for the home opener at Lambeau Field. Colts and Packers. So obviously, we have a significant injury to talk about with this game, which is Jordan Love. Jordan Love injuring his MCL, which looked like it could have been a heck of a lot worse than it was on that absolutely abysmal Brazil field. If you're going to do these games, the NFL has to take control over the surfaces that their athletes are going to be playing on. That needs to be NFL controlled. Like, the NFL can say, oh, yeah, sure, we'll bring a game to Brazil. That's fine. But we are going to control the playing surface. We are going to make sure that this playing surface is up to our standards. And if it's not, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be, we're not doing it. Or we're going to put in a surface that will. It's like, I'm all for expansion of the NFL into new markets. But like, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But, you know, it was also 6 seconds left in the game. So it was a bit of a fluke thing, but still. He's going to be out probably 2 to 6 weeks. Is what we're looking at. And that means that it's Malik Willis's team, at least moving forward. And everybody is kind of dunking on Malik Willis for bad metrics 2 years ago, last time he was a starter. And it's like, if he hasn't changed his game in 2 years, then okay, great. I hear you on that. But we have to assume that he has. Remember, everybody was dunking on Jordan Love's practice reps, like before, and then, you know, the back half of last season, he played like an MVP. So, I mean, you know, times change. Both of these teams were losers last week. Indianapolis lost by 2 points to Houston. I think there was a rush touchdown there from Anthony Richardson in garbage time, if I remember that correctly. Packers losing by 5 against Philadelphia, which, you know, a pretty good result against, you know, a top team like Philadelphia. I think they're kind of on that borderline of being an elite team. Like, they're certainly very, very good. That was a fun game. That was a very entertaining game right up until the end when the quarterback got hurt. I think I've got to go Indianapolis on this because Gorian basically makes the point that I was about to make, which is that I think top to bottom, Green Bay's the better team, but the question mark at quarterback stops me from. I want to pick my team. I badly want to pick my team, especially in the home opener. But I would be more comfortable picking Indianapolis and being wrong, because then I can be happy, than picking Green Bay because they're my team and being wrong is going to make me extra mad just because it's an upset. So, no, we're going to go with the Indianapolis Colts here. I think Indy goes into Green Bay, gets a win in a competitive, entertaining football game. Colts beat the Packers. On the line, the Packers are taking +3 as a home dog. I like Indianapolis to win. It's right on the edge of my, you know, small price to pay on a favorite. So I guess give me the -3 on that. It's not a tough number to cover. Total in the game set at 41. Both of these teams did go over last week. Let's go over a pretty beatable number there of 41. Competitive football game. I'm going to give it a 24-20 in favor of the Indianapolis Colts. Colts win, Colts cover, and a marginal over on the points. The Seattle Seahawks travel to New England to take on the Patriots. Both of these teams winning their games by exactly 6 points last week. We're obviously going to look at New England as taking a step down in competition this week, having played Cincinnati in week 1. Justin, your mic, please. I don't know what that means. Wee woo, wee woo. What does that mean? You're going to have to give me some more than that. Kat, you're going to have to give me more than that, my friend. So, yeah, Seahawks and Patriots. Oh, static feedback. Is it any better now? Is it any better after I did that? All right. Well, there's really not a heck of a lot that I can do about that. Here's hoping it kind of clears itself up in and of itself. Because other than stopping and starting again, I can't really do a whole lot about that. We're going to wiggle that up a little bit. Mute. Get it back out. All right, folks. Here's hoping we can kind of suffer through it. I may have just been getting a little too loud, and that may have been what was kind of causing it. So hopefully that kind of clears itself up. Seahawks and Patriots. I like the Seahawks in this spot. I think I was a little more impressed with them beating Denver. Even though, again, New England beat a team they probably shouldn't have. They were heavy dogs in that game, but there's something going on in Cincinnati that there's more going on there than I think most of us are understanding. So they've got a lot that they need to figure out. I think I like the Seahawks in this spot. Let's take Seattle on the road in New England to beat the Patriots. I just don't see the Patriots winning twice in a row. On the line, the Patriots are taking the plus 3.5. What I will do, because I don't want to buy that extra half point, I am going to hedge my bets here. And it's not a great hedge, but I am going to go ahead and hedge. So we're going to grab the plus 3.5. It's not a good hedge, but it insulates against an upset. So we're going to go ahead and take the plus 3.5 on the New England Patriots. Total in the game set at 38. These teams were a very strong under. They didn't both go under, but it's a very strong under. And such a low number, but I really think this stays under this 38 points. Like I only see this maybe getting to the mid 30s, not getting up into the high. So I'm going to go with, it seems like the Patriots always have weird scores. So I'm going to go with like an 18-17, something like that. So I'm going to take Seattle to win, but insulate against the upset by taking the plus 3.5, 18-17, and under on the 38 points. Division matchup is up next. The New York Giants in Washington taking on the Commanders. I would say both of these teams taking a step down in competition heading into this game. The Giants losing by 22 points in week 1, Washington losing by 17. So neither one of these teams having a particularly fruitful first week of the season. What I will say is I'm higher on Washington as a team, just because of the young pieces that they have brought in. I think they've got higher end offensive weapons. I think their defense is probably better. They're at home. They're a very, very marginal favorite at home. And I think I'm just basically fading the Giants until they give me a reason not to. So let's go ahead and take the Washington Commanders here to get the win over the New York Giants. On the line, Washington is laying -1.5 here as a home favorite. So let's go ahead and lay the -1.5. I like them to win. It's a very small price to pay. Total in the game set at 44. These two teams beat their totals by a decent amount last week. Let's go ahead and take the over here. It's a pretty beatable number. I think Washington can get into the 30s in this game. I've basically no real faith in the Giants defense at this point. So let's go like 31-17, something like that. Commanders win, Commanders cover. Give me the over on the 44-point total. Can I check in at this point and see if the mic situation is any better? Can I get somebody to hit me up in chat and let me know if it is not? Jeez. All right. Well, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go through two more games, and then I'm going to shut off the stream, and I'm going to restart the stream after unplugging the mic and plugging it back in, which is literally the only thing that I can do. And we will see if that improves things. So 2 more games, the stream will shut off, hang around. You'll get the live notification, I assume, again, and we'll do the back half of the week because that's just really, really frustrating. Okay. Emilio says I can hear you fine. Okay. For the people who are having mic issues, is it possible to maybe just refresh the stream and see if that's what's causing the issue? It's possible maybe if you've been here since the beginning, that's an issue. We'll get you to just click refresh on the stream and come back in and see if that's what the issue is. We're going to keep going. If it gets super, super bad, you're going to have to tell me, but just go ahead and refresh the stream and see if that helps. Up next, we got a quick one. The Los Angeles Chargers in Carolina taking on the Carolina Panthers, who obviously massive losers against the New Orleans Saints last week. And the news just kind of keeps getting worse for them, especially on the defensive side. Derek Brown is going to be gone for the season, unfortunately. I think it was a knee injury, but he's been put on season-ending IR. He got, less than 1 game, and he's a big piece of that defense, such as it is. So things just going from bad to worse for a Carolina team where obviously the expectations are almost nil. I have to assume they've got to at least consider going in a new direction at quarterback. Bryce Young, I don't think, has shown a whole heck of a lot at the NFL level at this point. The Chargers, obviously taking a step down in competition from last week. Winners by 12 points in week 1. A bit of a pop, but nothing terrible. Okay, cool. Now, this week's episode now is just an absolute. At this point, it's a crapshoot. Like now we just don't know. I'm totally thrown off my game, but that makes for fun episodes sometimes. Obviously heavily on the Chargers in this one. I think even in the absence of that Derek Brown injury, I would be heavily on the Chargers in this one. They, at the very least, were more impressive than I thought they would be in beating the Raiders last week. I think I took the Raiders to win that game, actually. So they looked good. J.K. Dobbins looks good. Doesn't look quite as explosive, but does look like he's back, which is nice. So we're going to take the Chargers here in a good spot in Carolina to get the win over the Panthers. On the line, Carolina's taking +6.5 here as a home dog. I think I kind of need to see him do it and not get blown out by 30, 5 possessions, whatever it was, 37 points before I could even hearken the possibility of them like hedging on one of their lines. So let's lay the -6.5 here on the Chargers for sure. Total in the game set at 39 points. Can't trust one side's defense to keep this game under 40. So I think we got to go ahead and take the over on this one. Let's go over 39 points in Los Angeles, Carolina. Let's go 27-17. So obviously more competitive than what we saw last week. Still 2 possessions. Still think the Chargers win and cover, and give me the over on the points. And before we jump ahead and look at the Sunday night game, we got one more for you. The Cleveland Browns in Jacksonville taking on the Jags. And Cleveland and Jacksonville are both teams that I would look at in that like, uh-oh, like this is a scary situation if we start the season 0-2. They're both definitely in that framework where playoff aspirations are not insane for either one of these teams. But based off what we saw in week 1, Jacksonville looked good in the first half, and then the offense completely disappeared after halftime. Cleveland, I didn't think looked good, especially on the offensive side, really at any point in that game. And it sucks because they can't get out from under it. They cannot get out from under Deshaun Watson because of the way they've done that contract. They got to pay him everything anyway. So unless he's playing like he's in Div 3, like there's no real way out of it. You're going to owe that money one way or the other. Obviously, not very high on the Browns at this point. Both of these teams, like I say, kind of coming in maybe with a little bit of a step down in competition. I mean, Cleveland having played Dallas, Jacksonville having played Miami. It's a step down in competition for both teams. I think we go ahead and take the Jags here, take the home team. They're favored by 3. I guess I'll lay that 3 points, although I don't feel super confident laying any amount of points really on the Jags right now, but I think we'll go ahead and do that. Jags -3. Total in the game 41.5 points. I think we got to go over on that because I like the Browns defense. The Jags didn't instill a ton of confidence in me on the defensive side last week. So 41.5, pretty beatable number. Let's go over. We're going to go like a 27-20, something like that. Jags win, Jags cover. Give me the over on the points. For anybody who was able to refresh the stream, did refreshing the stream do anything to help the audio? So we're through 10 games. We got 6 left. We're going to skip ahead to the Sunday night football game. Yes, it's better now. Awesome. Awesome. I appreciate you guys letting me know that. Like I say, if it gets to a point where it gets absolutely terrible, then we got to do what we got to do. We got to cut it off and we got to start over. But a lot of the time, just refreshing the stream will fix stuff like that. I am by no means a professional streamer. Sunday night football, Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams goes into Houston to take on CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. Both of these teams were on the happy side of things last week. Chicago with that aforementioned 7-point win against Tennessee. Houston holding on to beat a division rival in Indianapolis. Your audio is good again. Perfect. So a significant step up in competition, I think, for Chicago, and probably a step down in competition for the Texans. And games like that can get kind of funny. They can get a little scary because you're looking at a team that is on the other side of you that's trying to come up to your level. Meanwhile, you're up against a team that you don't necessarily have to be on the same level as you did last week. That leads you into trap situations. You got you got 2 runaway trains coming in opposite directions here. So it is a game that I think Houston can't afford to take for granted, even though obviously they were winners last week. It could be a trap game. It could be a trap scenario. I do like the Houston Texans here, though, because again, Chicago kind of scraped by Tennessee. Now to go into Houston to play the Texans, that's obviously a completely different ball game. So let's take CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans and that very good offense. My guy, Nico Collins, had a hell of a week 1, which was awesome. Let's take the Houston Texans to get the win over the Chicago Bears. On the line, I got Houston laying the -6. It's less than a touchdown. I feels like I'm maybe discrediting the Bears a little bit in this sense, but I feel like Houston's going to cover this number. So let's take the -6 on the Texans. Total in the game set at 45. The two teams combined to beat their totals last week by, I think, about 6 or 7 points in total. So it's a mid-40. I think it's beatable. Let's go over the 45-point total in Houston, Chicago. Let's go with, say, I'm going to go like 30, 21, something like that. Texans win, Texans cover the -6, and give me over on the 45-point total. So, just four more games to look at before we get to Monday Night Football between the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles. But first, let's go to Baltimore. The Baltimore Ravens, coming off a 7-point loss against Kansas City to open the 2024 season, now get to go home and play host to the Las Vegas Raiders, who are going to be on the tail end of back-to-back road games coming into this one. The Raiders, 12-point losers, like we just mentioned, against the Chargers last week. And obviously significant step up in competition here for the Raiders. For the Ravens, obviously it's a step down. And once again, you kind of hit that, two runaway freight trains going in the opposite directions towards each other. This is one of those potential trap scenarios, I think. I don't think it's going to play out that way. Maybe, man, you know what? Maybe if the Raiders weren't on that second straight road game, because it is a thing. It's a significant thing. Maybe if that wasn't the case, and maybe if the Raiders were a bit better defensively, and maybe if the Raiders were a bit more of this, and maybe if they were a bit more of that, I think we're going to have to go with Baltimore here. Let's take the Ravens in, and they are very heavily favored in this game too. Let's take the Ravens at home to get the win over the Raiders. So on the line, Baltimore's laying -9.5. It is a lot of points to lay this early in the season, but I feel like after last week, this Ravens team has a point to make. And I think this is exactly the kind of game that they're going to make their point. I could see the Ravens winning this game by like 30, just to make a point. Like just on both sides of the football to say, hey, we're the Baltimore Ravens. This is what we're about. Forget about last week. It's all about this week. This is Baltimore Ravens football. I can see a situation like that happening. I don't necessarily think it's going to play out exactly like that, but I am going to lay the 9.5 on Baltimore because, again, I do think this is a statement game for them in a lot of ways. On the not on the line, the total here is 41.5 points. It's a fairly low total, and these teams combined to miss the over on their totals by about 8.5 points last week. So not a ton of points to be had, at least against their number. 41.5 is very beatable, but this just feels like a Ravens defensive game where they're not going to let the Raiders have anything on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm actually going to go under on it. It's a very beatable number, but I'm going to take the under here. Under 41.5 points in Baltimore. Vegas, why don't we go ahead and take this one like 27-10, something like that. Maybe the Raiders get into double digits. But I think Baltimore's got something to prove in this game. And I think at the end of the day, that's exactly what they're going to do. So 27-10, Ravens win, Ravens cover under the 41.5 point total. Be interested to see if I have enough water to hold on here till the end. Okay. Up next, the Los Angeles Rams in Arizona taking on the Cardinals. This is a matchup, I would say, of two teams that are taking steps down, at least minor steps down in competition. Yeah, water, quote unquote. This week, the Rams obviously played Detroit last week. That's a step down. This is a step down for them. And Arizona, having played Buffalo last week, I would say it's a step down for them as well. Again, both of these teams losing by exactly 6 points last week. The Rams are going to be on the tail end of back-to-back road games here, which is certainly, again, a thing and an issue and something to take into consideration, as is the injury to Puka Nakua. So obviously, that's a big loss at the receiver position. It means Cooper Kupp is going to have a very good 4 weeks, as long as he can stay healthy. But not having Puka Nakua out there is definitely a downgrade for this Rams offense. Trust me, if that was anything but water, I'd tell you. At the same time, it's weird to me that the Arizona Cardinals are the favorites. Right now, Arizona is a betting favorite by, I mean, like, it's -1, but I don't view them as being there yet. I think they did some good things last week against a Bills team that obviously underwent a lot of changes in the offseason. And I mean, Buffalo ultimately wound up winning that game. It's not that I wasn't impressed by what Arizona did, but to think that now they should be 1-point favorites in this game against that Rams team, I just don't see it. So I like the Rams are the better football team here, top to bottom, especially on the defensive side. So give me the Rams on the road in a very, very marginal upset. I like the Rams to win, and obviously give me the +1 on the Rams here as well. Total in the game is at 49.5, which is a big total. I think there's the potential here for a lot of offensive fireworks. And both of these teams, both of them didn't go over, but they did beat their totals to the over by about 9 points. So I think I got to lean over on this one as well. We're going to go over the 49.5 points in Los Angeles and Arizona. Let's go give me like a 31-27, something like that. Like it's, I think it's going to be a competitive game and I think it's going to go over that point total, but it's weird to me that Arizona is the favorite here. So 31-27 in favor of the Rams. Rams win, Rams cover. Give me the over on the points. The Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Denver to take on the Broncos. Now, these are two teams going in different directions from last week. Pittsburgh with an 8-point win in Atlanta against the Falcons last week, whereas Denver dropped their game against Seattle by 6 points. So, two teams going in opposite directions. The Steelers are on the tail end of back-to-back road games, obviously, as they opened the season last week in Atlanta. And I feel like I don't want to take full credit away from the Steelers because they earned that win. And I don't get in the practice of taking wins away from teams. So it's not like they didn't earn that win. But I feel like there were a lot of things, a lot of mistakes that the Falcons made that kept the Steelers hanging around and hanging around and hanging around. And like I say, the Falcons offense kind of dried up at halftime. So I feel like against a team that was kind of firing on more cylinders than Atlanta was, Pittsburgh probably loses that game. Justin Fields wasn't super duper impressive to me. He's going to get the start again in week 2. And it's not like Denver was super impressive either. I think Bo Nix is going to become something. I think they had him attempt like 42 passes or something last week, and he had no touchdowns. He had a couple of interceptions. But I like the way he plays the game. I think he plays the game right. I think he's got some of those like Josh Allen-esque instincts and tendencies to him. I think he runs the ball very well. I like his upside more with this offense than I think I like the upside of the Steelers offense right now. I'm going to take the Broncos here. They're a marginal home dog at +2.5. I like the Broncos to win this game outright. So give me Denver at home to get the win over the Steelers. Give me the +2.5, obviously, on the Broncos as well against the spread. Total in this game is our smallest total of the week at 36.5 points. But these two teams badly missed their overs last week combined. One of them, I think, marginally hit their over, and another one missed by like 11 or 12 points or something like that. So I think I got to go under on this one as well. The points are going to be at a premium in this game for sure. And it's two, I think, pretty decent defenses as well. So give me 14-10, something like that. I don't think we see a ton of points in this game. Give me like a 14-10 for the Broncos. Broncos win, Broncos cover, under on the 36.5 points. And the second to last game we're going to look at is the Kansas City Chiefs at home playing host to the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow and the Bengals returning to Arrowhead. We all know the history here. So Cincinnati, they're definitely one of those teams that are very firmly in that, holy crap, what do we do if we get to 0-2? Now, I think they're a team that has the ability to rebound from that. They got to get healthy first. They got to get Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow on the same page. They got to kind of put the water under the bridge from what was happening in the offseason, and they got to get to playing football. That might take a couple more weeks. And it's unfortunate. I would love to see this game in week 10 instead of in week 2. You know what I mean? I get why it's in week 2, but I would love to see this game in like week 10. As it stands right now, I mean, there's no good reason not to take the Chiefs in this game at all. But I do think because of the history between the two teams and the rivalry here that does exist, Kansas City's laying -5.5. I'm actually going to hedge on this. I'm going to take the +5.5 on the Cincinnati Bengals. Kansas City to win, Bengals to cover the +5.5. Total in the game set at 47.5. This is a game like last game where the totals combined, the overs badly missed. It was like -14.5 points or something like that. So another game where I think points are probably going to be at a premium. Let's take the under on the 47.5 point total. And let's go. Let's see. Let's go like a 23-20, something like that. That seems about right. That's what I took in Buffalo, Miami as well. Let's go like a 23-20. So Chiefs win, Bengals cover the +5.5, under on the points. So chat at this point has completely dried up. Either people are still hanging around and just listening and not commenting, or what it is. This became a weird episode, folks, and I apologize for that. All right, Monday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons in Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. So the Eagles obviously had that 5-point win in Brazil against Green Bay. Atlanta dropping an 8-point decision in week 1, again, to a Pittsburgh Steelers team that they probably should have beat in that spot. Certainly a step up in competition for the Falcons. I'm going to call this not a step down in competition necessarily for the Eagles. I think Atlanta and Green Bay, as of right now, are probably on fairly even playing field. When Jordan Love comes back, I'd probably give Green Bay a bit of a bump there. But as of right now, I'd say they're probably on a fairly even playing field. I liked what I saw out of Philadelphia for the most part. I mean, the offense clicked along at a fairly decent pace, and play pick 'em with the picks you make here. Not sure what you mean, Gorian. We'll double check on that in a second. So yeah, the Eagles are, again, I think their offense is going to do just fine. Obviously, Saquon Barkley looks very good in an Eagles jersey and showed that in his first game, absolutely balling out on the ground. I don't necessarily know that the Falcons have the defense right now to kind of hold up to that. But I mean, this game will be very interesting. I'm glad this game is on prime time because I love what the Falcons did with Bijan. I'd say that not only as a Bijan dynasty manager, but just as a fan of football. I loved the way that, like, he touched the ball a lot on those early drives. And again, their offense kind of dried up in the second half. I guess I should have kept watching the game for the sake of the Falcons. I should have kept watching that game, because I watched that game up until halftime and then swapped over to another one, and Atlanta's offense just completely dried up. I think I like the Eagles in this spot. I think I would need to see more from Atlanta on a higher level to kind of be able to look at them, especially this early in the season, as an upset in this spot. Let's take the Eagles at home to get the win over Atlanta. The Eagles are laying -6.5 here as a home favorite. I think I'm going to have to go ahead and lay that -6.5. It's just under a touchdown. If this number keeps climbing, if this number is like 7.5 or something by kickoff, I think I would probably have to hedge there. Maybe that'd be a tough one, but I'm going to lay the 6.5 as it stands right now. Total in the game set at 47 points. I think I'm going to take a very, very marginal under on this, even though, again, Philly's offense looked good in that game against Green Bay. Atlanta's offense only looked good for a half, so we're gonna skew on the under side here, and I think I'm gonna go like 26, 26-17, something like that. 2-possession win for Philadelphia. Eagles win. Eagles cover the -6.5 under the 47-point total. All right. Those are your picks. Those are your plays for week 2 in the NFL. Boy, the podcast version of this show is going to be way more cleaned up than the live stream version is. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you again in week number 3. All right, there's the podcast version of the show now cleaned up and taken care of. I need a rule. Play pick'em with the picks you make here. So Gorian, if you're saying like you need to hold me to the picks that I make on the show, I'll save you time. They're the same picks that I put in the pick'em every week. Like I don't change. If I change a pick, I announce it on Twitter. I put it in the comments section of the episode. I change it in the description. Like I make no bones about it if I change a pick after I do this show. But if you don't see that like plastered everywhere, the picks that I make on this show are the picks that I stay with in the pick'ems. Not only my own, but in half moons against the spread as well. Like I stay on the same side in both of those pools. So whatever I put on this show is what I put in the pick'em. Broken Ankle wants a Falcons upset there. I needed to see more in week 1, to be honest. And I don't think they were terrible in week 1, but I certainly would have wanted to see more if I wanted to look at like they can beat a team like the Eagles. I need to see them step up a little bit more in that sense. Go Houston Super Bowl aspirations. I think they should have those 100%. Cool. Don't need to hold you to nothing. Just saying respect. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. That I'll just to clarify. If I'm the picks that I make on this show, they're definitely what I use in the pick'em. Unless, like I say, if I do change something, I become a media whore basically, and I spew that everywhere. Like, oh, my pick changed on this, and for the 100 some people that saw the episode, they're like, okay, cool. But yeah, so I make a big deal of it if I actually pick some or change something. So once again, there were some contentious picks, especially earlier in the show. I may have completely turned off one particular Lions fan from ever checking out the show ever again. And if that's the case, at least I still have Half Moon. Okay. I just finished my water. I just had enough water to hold on there. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're going to call it right there. And yeah, again, like there's going to be contentious picks every week. I love it. I kind of dig it. Today, like this episode was chaotic. Like this episode wound up being nuts. I was getting distracted by chat. We had our audio thing, which I actually think I know what was causing that. So if that is the case, it's an easy fix. So 2 thumbs up on that. Shouldn't happen in the future. Hopefully it won't. That's it for me, folks. I think we're going to call the stream there. Thank you so much for everybody that's been in here. My gosh, right from a number of you have been here right from the beginning, which is great. Everybody that popped in and checked out the show, I cannot say thank you enough. I really, really appreciate you. So that's it for me. I will be back again next Wednesday night for the week 3 picks. And, week 1 was good. We're hoping for better in week 2. So thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show. We'll see you again next week. Adios.